Welcome to this video, part 17 of the pre-World Championship match series, and it's time to go back, long way back in time, but the circumstances of this game are just too nice to not show it. It's a game from 1987 when Anand was basically an unknown junior player, and he entered the World Junior Championship, played in the Philippines in 1987, and at the end he won it. He was not particularly favored to win it. There were many strong juniors around, especially from the back then Soviet Union, but at the end he emerged to win this title, and this was basically his breakthrough, and he became known to the chess world, really. Before that he was really an unknown player. I'm going to show a game that is funny in some aspects. He's playing in this game Anand-Agdestein, the Norwegian now Grandmaster, and you know it, Norwegian. Agdestein is also the former coach of Magnus Carlsen. He worked with him for some years in Magnus's junior years, and so Anand played Magnus' trainer in 1987, even before Magnus was born. So it's a quite funny thing to look at, this big age difference between the two players. Back then Agdestein himself was a junior player. Of course, it's the World Juniors. And an additional fun aspect of this game is, let's have a look. Plays knight c6 on the first move. Quite funny, but usually after knight f3 we just transpose to a regular opening. I also recommend for white players just to play knight f3. It's really not much use to look at those kind of lines, or even e5. After knight f3, usually we'll play e5 anyway, and we get a roue here, like many games in the series by Vichy Avery Lopez openings. All right, but let's see. An additional funny thing here is that Agdestein goes for this rare line in the roue, and this is called the Norwegian Defense. So lots of Norway in this video, and therefore fitting nicely to the spirit of this series to whet your appetite for the upcoming match. This line is called the Norwegian line, and this is also due to the efforts of the black player here in this game. He played this quite a number of times, and to be honest, I think it's just a bad line, and I'm not quite sure how he managed to play so many games with it and even win quite a number of them. Maybe the surprise value. The problem of this line is it loses lots of time. Black gets this important bishop, but it's simply a very slow line. White cannot really take here. It doesn't promise much, because black can take here, and in this way set to regain the pawn. White has gained nothing here. The best line is just castles, and now black plays d6 as the 5 pawn was hanging now, and white sets to open up the position. This is very logical. Black has lost time with his knight, so white should open up the position to make use of the edge in development. Black took on b3. This is certainly the right decision. This is a good piece, and you need to get rid of it, so he took. And here black has a choice. It seems that nowadays, while this line is very rare, when it is played, people usually go for the capture, which is probably not so logical in itself after having lost quite some time opening up the position. But it seems that after the move that Agdestein played, he played f6. I know it looks ugly, but e5 was hanging, and you either take or play f6. There's not much else. Yeah, I think I prefer that still. f6 is covering this pawn, but still not helping at all with the developing pieces. And black suffers from a lack of coordination the whole game. Yeah, Vichy now played knight c3, which just attacks the pawn. And black responds with bishop b7, quite logical. Still, the bishop on b7, it puts some pressure on the e4 pawn, but it's not helping to defend the light squares. And this is immediately addressed by knight h4, intending queen h5 check. If the bishop would be on e6, for instance, you always would have bishop f7 to interpose. But now, this is of course not possible. Yeah, black needs to do something here. Against this, he played knight to e7 to make sure that after the check, which is not played, g6 is possible. Yeah, Anand played in a very logical way, I think. He took on e5. Problem is, how do you continue to increase your pressure? He intends to play queen to f3, wants to support knight f5, for example. And as long as this possibility is in the position, you cannot go queen f3. So he just takes on e5 and follows up with queen f3. In this position, black could have considered to take with the f pawn. It's not as bad as it looks, maybe. At first I thought, okay, maybe f4, just opening up the position. But black can maybe even play like that and then castle long. Yeah, it looks shaky. But okay, this extended fianchetto, the bishop on b7 is protecting black's king. So it's maybe not that bad when white is better, but maybe it's still a playable game. White, of course, does not necessarily need to play f4 immediately after this. He could also think about a move like bishop g5, for example. Not sure. No, f takes e5 was a possibility. He took with the d pawn though. And now we see that white gains lots of time. Played queen f3, and we see that rook d1 is an upcoming move which comes with tempo. And black has a hard time to get his pieces developed. If he plays knight to g6, there's queen h5, and it's an immediate loss. You cannot go g6. Well, this is hanging. And how do you get your pieces untangled? He played queen to d7 here, intending, intending queen e6, and after rook d1, queen e6, exactly that was put on the board. Yeah, obviously white has a good position. This is easy to see, but how do you continue here? How do you make any substantial progress? Yeah, you could think about knight f5, but the problem is black just takes, and e takes f. It's not possible. So this doesn't really help. This is quite okay here on h4, this piece, because it simply prevents the black knight from moving. If the black knight would move, this always knight f5, like that, for example. If white would, let's say, zero move, then you always have this idea. So this isn't bad at all on h4. And how do you progress? The thing is, I think white really should play exactly the move he's playing. Now he plays knight d5. And I think you really should do that, as long as you got the chance. If white plays, white can play a slow move, let's say b4 or bishop e3. What I'm getting at is that maybe black can think about preventing knight d5 with a move like c6, but it also looks really ugly. Just have a look at that. Yeah, it's very ugly. Yeah, but white has the chance to play knight d5 in this exact moment, and I think he really should take this chance. It's a good piece on d5, and black basically needs to take it at one point or another. You cannot tolerate this piece there. You could, theoretically speaking, try to play something like that, and here try to just keep the piece on d5, but this is incredibly hard for a human player to do, tolerating such a piece. The computer is not so impressed with white's position. It says white's better, but not winning, and I guess black still has a fairly resilient position. It's not fantastic or anything, but it doesn't seem to be an instant loss for black. So maybe this is what he should have done. He decided to capture on d5, which is the far more human move. You want to get rid of this piece. But now after e takes d5, queen f7 and c4, we see that this pawn capture on d5 introduces a new new point of this position, this possible central breakthrough, creating a passer in the center. And also note that these pawns, d5 is protected nicely by c4, really limit the scope of this bishop on b7. So white keeps a very nice and also easy to handle advantage in this position. This is why black probably should have gone for this long castles idea, simply because it's the far murkier type of position. Okay, played bishop e7, preparing castles, but the problem is you don't really get that far. Knight f5. Yeah, and now we can check what happens if black castles. This is the problem. Very cute move, and the motif to remember with the knight on f5. This bishop h6 move can be deadly if this is in a pin.
Check.
This is of course the point, winning the queen. And black really has no way to prevent material losses here. White will just take here, or let's say this one is another way to lose substantial material. So black cannot castle, no? And yeah, what did he do? He played rook d8, and you're really running out of moves a bit. It's not nice at all. But this game is also instructive to show how to convert such a position. Anand is not rushing things. He's first completing his development. Bishop e3, simple and strong. And now g6 is played. Yeah, knight to h6. This is also a move or motif to take note of. This knight looks at first like being a bit offside. It's on the edge of the board, but as I showed you with this arrow, it controls g8, which means that, oops, I didn't want to do that. It controls g8, so black cannot castle, and this is of course very important. This king is stuck on e8. It also cannot play king f7, of course. The knight is just far too annoying on h6. Okay, at first you need to play here, not nothing else. Yeah, and here's an instructive point. Here Anand played the move queen to g3. If you give that to an engine, to a computer, it will point out queen g3 as a big mistake, because c takes b5 it considers to be directly winning. I'm pretty sure that Anand has had calculated this, but what I believe is he saw this f5 takes on a6. The problem is, I should show that, if black recaptures, then rook a7 is just deadly. Very, very sorry piece. Something like that. With d6 coming, black is completely busted. This is very easy to see. But I guess the point is another one. He probably saw something like that. f5 takes, bishop a8. And now white has won 2 pawns, which is nice. But he also has destroyed his structure, which was very very nicely protected and keeping the position together. And it seems that black has chances to get the d5 pawn back. Think of e4 and taking on d5. The computer is just completely unimpressed and says white is winning, which is probably true, but it's a bit more difficult for a human to play. There's also ideas like f4, where you are having this piece caught off on h6. It feels like white has lost coordination a bit, and he therefore played the human move queen g3. And it's simple and strong. The idea is, if black now plays g5, there's knight and plays f5, you can simply take it. It's a nice tactical idea, and this means that also this move is a tactical possibility. Furthermore, it intends h4 and h5, and we see an additional point of h4 just in the next move. Bishop c8 first was played, covering f5. Now he played h4. And one important point of this whole setup with queen g3 and h4 is, if black now plays f5, white has the very simple positional move bishop g5. And this is just very nice. It's this kind of configuration is nice. This bishop is always protecting the knight. If takes, oops, not that, you just recapture and keep this this knight on h6, controlling those vital squares. And in this position, for instance, black will simply explode on e5. There's no way to defend the center here. So a very nice positional way to rob black of all kinds of counterplay. Yes, he could have maybe won quicker with concrete play, but this just kills all counterplay and makes it easier to convert. Yeah, now bishop d6 was played and queen f3 back. This idea is prevented now, of course, and you can use the queen more effectively on f3 here. Bishop e7 back. Yeah, there was also simply c5 threat, and so hard to do anything else. And now rook c1. In this position, again, white had a tactical idea. He could have played d6, which is quite strong. Look at this.
Check. Check.
This is completely deadly. No way for black to defend this. But it's also, besides being deadly, it's also not necessary. You can simply win with good positional moves. Rook c1, just preparing this, and black has no counterplay whatsoever. So this is just simple and strong. I'm not sure, maybe he even saw d6 and calculated some lines, then decided, okay, let's just try to win without any complicated calculation. Also, you need to note, at the time, Anand was just 18 years old, and back then he was known for his exceptionally quick play. He rarely used more than 30 or 40 minutes per game. Even in tournament chess, where he could have thought 2 or 3 hours, he was just spending 30 minutes or 40 minutes, even against top grandmasters. Over the years, he slowed down a bit. He still can play quickly if he wants to in tournament chess, but usually he takes his time like everyone else. He rarely gets into really hair-raising time trouble, but he at least uses the time that is given. Okay, rook c1. Yeah, takes. Yeah, it's hard to suggest anything for black. Rook f8 and now c5. It just flows very naturally. f5. Yeah, black simply has no active plan, and this is the only thing to think of. And now bishop g5, as shown before. This is why white had played h4, to have this important resource covering this kingside formation. And queen e7 attacking g5, which is covered. And at the end the problem is the king. It cannot escape anywhere, and white is threatening to just push in the center. After e4, played d6. In fact, here it was already more than... Here there already was more than a good line. One good line, rook c4 for example, intending to intensify on e4, also was very strong, but this seems to win anyway. Like queen e5, and now white just opens up in the center, takes,
check,
and e3 is the last, yeah, kind of desperate try to at least get a check in. But
check.
Rook d8.
Check.
And now the funny move, knight g8 check, just kills all counterplay. Black has no move, of course. He needs to take it, and white can just recapture. The point is that white has threats on his own. e2, for example, is not
check.
playable because
check.
This just wins the house, and it's always check.
Check.
White wins. He played bishop to e6, and yeah, this is easily dealt with. Just promoting.
Check.
Just one check, and everything's covered. e1 is covered, and black doesn't have any checks. He took, I guess, probably being in time trouble. And after rook c8, Anand-Agdestein here resigned the game. Yeah, very straightforward win, and not too difficult, to be honest. But it was a nice strategical lesson based on the fact that white had this better development, control of the d file, and with knight d5 it was simply a case of a piece that is so strong that you can hardly tolerate. So after the capture, white has this nice pawn formation ready to form a pass pawn, and black really is in deep trouble. After this, yeah, attacking the queen and always controlling g8, black couldn't secure his king, and from here I guess it's really lost. Note that Anand is using good methodical moves to win the game and not trying to win instantly with tactics. C takes b5 is such a possibility, and probably it is from a purely technical point of view the best move. But his solution with queen g3 and h4 simply kills black's counterplay, and is also very, very strong. I think the computer underestimates the strength of this this solution. It gives white a large edge, but I think white is just winning here. There's no way for black to untangle himself. So after a later f5, we see this idea of h4 revealed, and after that it was a matter of a good technical execution, which Anand didn't have any problems with. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game. Played in the Norwegian line of the of the Rue Lopez, and played by Magnus Carlsen's former coach 3 years before the challenger even was born. So it has some funny aspect, this game, in relation to the upcoming match. I hope you enjoyed the game. I'll be back tomorrow with another game by the Challenger. Thanks for watching.